Every day, millions of people turn to social media to get their news, share their opinions, and discuss politics. But what happens when these platforms become more than just a way to connect with friends? What if they're actually changing the very nature of democracy itself? Did you know that 64% of Americans say social media has a major impact on shaping their political views? Even more surprising, studies show that false information spreads 70% faster than the truth on Twitter. Imagine that. Lies travel faster than facts, and it's affecting how we vote, how we think, and how we interact with one another. In this video, we're diving deep into whether democracy can survive in a world where social media rules. We'll explore how platforms like Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram are changing the way we experience politics. From fake news to echo chambers, we'll uncover the hidden dangers lurking online. Are we facing a crisis for democracy, or can we still turn things around? Keep watching to find out. Chapter 1: The Digital Revolution, Friend or Foe to Democracy. The rise of social media has radically transformed how we communicate, share ideas, and, most importantly, engage in politics. What was once the realm of traditional media is now open to anyone with an internet connection. According to a report by the Pew Research Center, about 72% of US adults get their news from social media. But as we all know, this shift isn't just about convenience. It's about power. Social media platforms have become the new public squares, where ideas are debated, and movements are born. Think about the Arab Spring, an event that showed how social media could spark revolution. But there's a darker side too. Platforms like Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram have been accused of spreading misinformation, fueling polarization, and undermining public trust in democracy. Despite these challenges, it's undeniable that social media has democratized information. Anyone, anywhere, can share their opinion, whether it's a politician or an ordinary citizen. This democratization has the potential to strengthen democratic participation. However, the ease with which misinformation spreads has raised alarms. A study by MIT found that fake news spreads 70% faster than true stories on Twitter. This raises a tough question: can a platform built on instant information sharing really support a healthy democracy? While social media gives every voice a platform, it's also a space for chaos. Algorithms prioritize engagement, often amplifying the most sensational, divisive content. The very design of these platforms encourages outrage over reasoned debate. As a result, democracy can be driven to the edge by fake news, harassment, and manipulation. It's no longer enough to ask if social media helps democracy, it's about how it reshapes it. Chapter 2: Echo Chambers and Filter Bubbles. Democracy's new dividers. Echo chambers and filter bubbles are terms that seem to dominate the social media conversation. In simple terms, an echo chamber is when people only hear opinions that reinforce their own beliefs. Filter bubbles happen when algorithms tailor content specifically for each user, isolating them from differing viewpoints. A 2016 study from the University of Maryland found that most social media users rarely encounter opposing viewpoints. And when they do, it's often a hostile encounter, not a productive one. The power of algorithms lies in their ability to create these bubbles, which can distort reality. For instance, Facebook's newsfeed algorithm chooses content based on past behavior, not the quality of information. So, if someone engages with political posts from a particular side, they are likely to see more of that content, deepening their existing views. In theory, this helps users see what interests them. But in practice, it creates a fragmented, polarized society. One example of this is the 2016 US presidential election. Many people, on both sides of the aisle, lived in echo chambers where their political beliefs were constantly reinforced. As a result, they were less likely to be open-minded or willing to compromise. This environment breeds division, making meaningful political discourse nearly impossible. It's also worth noting that people in these echo chambers are more likely to believe misinformation, as they are rarely exposed to facts that challenge their worldview. Social media is not just an echo chamber for individuals, it also encourages the formation of groupthink. For instance, online communities often develop shared narratives that are resistant to change. These groups can rally around false ideas and amplify their influence, creating a feedback loop that's hard to break. What starts as an individual's isolated belief can snowball into a collective movement, further distancing people from reality. Chapter 3: Fake News, the Digital Plague of the 21st Century. One of the most pressing issues social media presents to democracy is the rise of fake news. Fake news refers to false or misleading information presented as fact, designed to influence or deceive. The term gained widespread attention during the 2016 US election, where false stories spread rapidly across social media platforms. According to a study published in Science magazine, false news stories are 70% more likely to be shared than true stories. That's a staggering statistic when you consider the potential for harm. Fake news doesn't just mislead people, it often alters public opinion and influences elections. A study by the Oxford Internet Institute found that 87% of the misinformation spread during the 2016 election was politically biased. Social media platforms like Facebook have become the primary source of news for millions, but how many of those stories are legitimate? The answer is murky, as platforms like Facebook have struggled to regulate fake news while maintaining a free flow of information. What makes fake news even more dangerous is its viral nature. Social media users, eager to share content with their followers, often spread stories without checking the facts. This speeds up the dissemination of false information, making it harder to contain. The spread of fake news can cause real-world consequences. In India, fake news about child kidnappers spread on WhatsApp, leading to mob violence and deaths. These incidents show how misinformation can spiral out of control when unchecked. Governments and tech companies are trying to tackle this problem, but progress is slow. In 2020, Facebook and Twitter took steps to flag misleading information about the COVID-19 pandemic. Still, many argue that these measures come too late and don't go far enough. Until social media platforms can develop effective strategies to combat fake news, the risk to democracy remains high. Chapter 4: The Dark Side of Viral Politics. Weaponizing social media. Political manipulation through social media has become a dark art. In recent years, we've seen how social media can be weaponized to sway public opinion, create division, and even interfere in elections. One of the most notorious examples of this was the 2016 Cambridge Analytica scandal, where personal data from millions of Facebook users was harvested without consent to target them with political ads. The company used this data to influence voter behavior, raising serious questions about privacy and election integrity. This manipulation isn't just about micro-targeted ads, it also involves spreading divisive rhetoric. Social media platforms allow for rapid mobilization of people who can be persuaded by emotionally charged content. In some cases, political leaders and interest groups use these platforms to launch smear campaigns, spread conspiracy theories, and even create fake personas to amplify messages. The speed and reach of viral content make it particularly potent in the hands of those seeking to manipulate the political process. A tweet, a post, or a viral video can instantly stir emotions, often without any regard for truth. Politicians increasingly rely on social media to bypass traditional media and directly connect with voters. But the risk is that social media, rather than serving as a forum for debate, becomes a battlefield for manipulation. In many ways, viral politics is a symptom of the growing tension between democracy and the digital world. The very tools that allow for broad participation in the democratic process are also the ones that can tear it apart. Can democracy withstand this kind of warfare? The answer may depend on how effectively we regulate these platforms and hold those responsible for malicious content accountable. Chapter 5: The Rise of Citizen Journalism. A double-edged sword. Citizen journalism has been one of the most significant shifts in modern media. Social media platforms allow anyone with a smartphone to become a reporter. During moments of political unrest, such as the Black Lives Matter protests or the Hong Kong protests, we've seen ordinary citizens play a pivotal role in documenting events that mainstream media often overlook. In some cases, this has led to greater transparency and accountability. However, this democratization of journalism comes with its own set of challenges. The lines between fact and opinion are often blurred. In an age where everyone is a journalist, how do we ensure the news we receive is accurate? The lack of editorial oversight on social media means that false information can spread as quickly as the truth. In fact, the term citizen journalism is often criticized because it implies that anyone, regardless of their qualifications or training, can contribute to the public discourse. Another issue is the lack of accountability. Traditional journalism adheres to strict codes of ethics, but social media does not. As a result, many viral stories are unverified, and sources are often anonymous. This creates a dangerous environment where rumors and falsehoods can be accepted as fact. Despite these issues, citizen journalism remains a powerful tool for political change, but it requires careful management and regulation. The rise of citizen journalism has also challenged traditional media's role in shaping public opinion. As more people turn to social media for their news, they may trust independent voices more than mainstream outlets. While this can empower individuals, it also increases the risk of misinformation. How do we strike a balance between freedom of speech and ensuring that accurate, well-researched information is what prevails? Chapter 6: The Fight for Democracy. Can social media be reformed? As the relationship between social media and democracy continues to evolve, the big question is whether social media platforms can be reformed to better serve democratic values. Companies like Facebook and Twitter have faced increasing pressure from governments, watchdog groups, and the public to take responsibility for the content on their platforms. In response, some platforms have implemented fact-checking programs and content moderation strategies, but critics argue these measures are insufficient. For social media to truly support democracy, there needs to be a shift in how these platforms operate. One potential strategy is to create more transparency around algorithms. Users should know why they are being shown specific content and how their data is being used. If social media companies want to preserve the democratic nature of online spaces, they must prioritize trust and accountability. Another potential reform is to limit the amount of political advertising that can be targeted to individuals. By reducing the ability to micro-target voters, we can limit the scope for manipulation and ensure that campaigns focus more on the issues than on exploiting personal data. Moreover, platforms should be required to remove hate speech, false narratives, and divisive content that harms democracy. While these reforms may not be perfect, they represent a starting point for balancing the interests of social media companies, users, and democracy itself. In the end, the goal is clear: to create a digital world where information is shared responsibly, voices are heard, and democracy thrives. Don't forget to subscribe if you want to stay updated on more content like this, and let us know your thoughts in the comments. How do you think we can protect democracy in the age of social media?